Alright, so all the characters in Mario Tennis Fever have types of classes to describe how they'll typically play, and in this video, I'm going to be going over what they all mean. Overall, I would say this should be a pretty quick video, and one last thing I want to mention before I start explaining all the classes is if I ever list out a character more than one time, it means that they fit multiple classes. For example, Rosalina's class is listed as tricky, but I also think she's an all-arounder. So again, like, if you ever hear me mention a character more than once, just know I did that on purpose, okay? Anyways, might as well start with the all-arounders. So we have Mario, Luigi, Daisy, Rosalina, Spike, Birdo, Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, and Goomba. As the name would suggest, they're average just about everywhere, with no really excelling traits, but also no major weaknesses either. Depending on the character you play though, their stats and shots can still make them extremely different from one another. Some can play more like other classes than others, but all in all, they still definitely fit in this category, and everyone here is pretty versatile. As I continue to list out other classes and their strengths and weaknesses further on in the video, just keep the all-arounders in the back of your head, as again, they're all-arounders. Next, we have technical characters, and the ones that fit into this class are Peach, Toadette, Luma, Shy Guy, Paratroopa, and Baby Peach. Their main strength is their shot accuracy and precision, as they really make your opponents run all over the court until they can no longer catch up to the ball. These characters are also really good at the net as well, but going up there might be a little bit risky, as that's when you usually have to look out for lobs. Their main weakness is that they're usually quite slow and they don't have much power either, so you really need some good shot selection and positioning to make up for that. The next class I'm going to talk about are the speedy and defensive characters, but I'm actually going to combine them into the same class. Why I decided to do this is because speed and defense are basically the same thing. If you're fast, you can get to the ball quicker on your side to return it. Like, that's basically what defense is. Defensive characters just have longer reach and are a bit more powerful, but all in all, they play pretty much the same way if you ask me. The characters in this category are Pauline, Waluigi, Toad, Yoshi, Koopa, Paratroopa, Diddy Kong, Dry Bowser, Boom Boom, Wiggler, Nabbit, Baby Waluigi, Donkey Kong, and Goomba. This group's main strengths are that they're really good at rallying the ball back and forth, and it's up to you to just, like, keep chipping away at your opponent's positioning to eventually get a point off of them. Speedy characters are also really good to play at the net, as if your opponent ever throws out a lob, chances are you can just run backwards and still have enough time to hit the ball anyways. Defensive characters can't really do that as well, since they're a lot slower, but they can rally the ball back and forth very well. Like, just position yourself, like, near the middle of the back of the court and take advantage of their range, really. It's gonna be quite difficult to get anything past you. In short, though, speedy characters can usually take more risks, while defensive characters might have a harder time doing so, but, like, still. Both of these classes play similar enough if you ask me, and that's why I decided to group them together. This class's main weakness is that they might have a little bit of a harder time scoring if you don't keep chipping away your opponent's positioning little by little, and you really need a lot of patience. If you're playing with fever rackets, though, that's where this group can really shine, as you're already quite defensive and you can usually catch up to balls in the first place, so you might as well, like, use a fever racket that can help you score a little bit more. Not to mention, though, but the fever shots alone can usually give you quite reliable points. Not even including, like, the whole racket effect either. The power class consists of Wario, Bowser, Chain Chomp, Petey, Piranha, Dry Bowser, Baby Wario, Spike, Donkey Kong, and an honorable mention of Daisy, thanks to her super topspin shot, so everything I say here relating to topspins and knockback applies to her as well. Power characters do exactly what you'd expect, they hit the ball hard. They have some really good topspins and flat shots that can really send your opponents back quite a lot, and they have a pretty easy time scoring if they have the upper hand in the rally. The thing with this class, though, is just don't get too predictable with your topspins and flat shots, as if, like, let's just say you're too heavy on the topspins, right? Your opponent can just, like, slice it back, and then you're barely gonna take any knockback, or they might flat shot it back to you, and potentially you get scored on right then and there. Mixing up your shots is extremely important to playing this class well, and when your opponent, like, least expects it, that is exactly when you give them something strong. This class also has quite a good defensive reach as well, all thanks to them being bigger or having larger rackets like Spike. Their main weaknesses are their lack of spin and speed, so it's quite easy for your opponent to take advantage of you if you're ever out of position. Lastly, we have the Tricky class, and Rosalina, Bowser Jr., Boo, Kamek, Piranha Plant, Blooper, and Dry Bones all fit in this class. Tricky characters' main strengths are their spin control, serves, and the fact that they always have some shot that keep your opponent on their toes at all times, and it's usually pretty hard to react to. Even if your opponent knows it's coming, they might still be far enough out of position now, like where your next shot can easily go past them, so this is usually a great time to use a fever shot if you're playing with fever rackets on. This class is all about how you set up your shots and what your opponent thinks you're gonna do. It's pretty much mind games to a certain extent. You throw out some shots, and whenever, like, they're not expecting it, that's when you try to score off of a mix-up. The thing with mix-ups as well is they don't need to be the tricky curve shot either. They can just be any type of shot. Like, maybe you keep hitting slices to the right side of the court, and now you can do a topspin to the left as a mix-up, or maybe you try to score at the net. Mix-ups can be literally anything. Now, keep in mind though, Piranha Plant is listed as a tricky character, but he has some pretty bad spin to his shots and serve, and they just don't curve at all, really. His main tricky part is his high bouncing topspin, even if it doesn't curve. I just wanted to mention that about Piranha Plant, as everything I said previously about, like, spins and curve shots and all that, it applies to all tricky characters except for him. Anyways though, this class's main weakness is your opponent figuring out your game plan, being too predictable, and depending on the character you play, just not being that powerful or fast. Alright, with the last class out of the way, hopefully this video helped you out and you learned something new about the character you play. Thank you for watching.